The first time I learned my daughter had been trying to come home for 24 years, 86 letters fell out of my dead wife's grandfather clock and landed at my son's feet. Daniel stared at them. I stared at him. Neither of us looked at the clock. The old thing had already said enough. The envelopes were tied together with faded blue ribbon. Some were yellow at the edges. Some looked almost new. Every one of them carried the same handwriting. Anna's handwriting. My daughter's handwriting. A daughter I had not seen since she walked out of my house at 28 years old and told me she would rather struggle without a father than spend one more day begging for his approval. At least, that was how I remembered it. Memory becomes very cooperative when it has protected you from guilt for more than 2 decades. Daniel bent down quickly. Too quickly. He gathered the letters before I could touch them. "Dad, these are probably old." I looked at him. That is generally what happens when paper spends 24 years inside a clock. He did not smile. Daniel usually smiled when he wanted me to believe something unpleasant was actually practical. He had smiled while explaining why I should stop driving at night. He had smiled while showing me photographs of a senior apartment with beige walls and something called a social lounge. He had smiled while suggesting that I sell the house where his mother and I had lived for 47 years. At 78, you learn to distrust any sentence that begins with, "This will make things easier." It is usually followed by a request for your keys, your signature, or your agreement to move somewhere with scheduled bingo. I reached for the letters. Daniel held them against his chest. That was when I knew. Not what he had done. Not yet. But I knew those letters were not a surprise to him. "Give them to me. Dad, we should finish moving the clock. The clock has remained in that corner since 1977. It can survive another 10 minutes. You said you wanted the appraiser here before lunch. I have changed my schedule." Daniel looked toward the front window. The moving truck was parked outside. 2 men waited on the porch. They had already wrapped my dining chairs and carried away 3 boxes of June's china. I had agreed to let Daniel arrange an estate sale. That was mistake number 1. Mistake number 2 was believing that an estate sale required the owner of the estate to remain alive and cooperative. "Give me the letters." Daniel exhaled. Then he handed them over. The ribbon slipped loose in my hands. The newest envelope was on top. The stamp had been cancelled 6 months earlier. My full name was written across the front. Walter Mercer. Below it was the address of the house where I was standing. There was no postal mark indicating it had been returned. No note saying the recipient had moved. No reason it should have ended up inside a clock. I opened it. The first line said, "Dad, this is the 86th letter I have written to you." My fingers tightened around the page. The next lines were worse. "It will also be the last. I am having heart surgery on the 14th. I am not asking you to forgive me. I only wanted to hear your voice once before they put me to sleep." I read those lines 3 times. Then I looked at the date. The 14th was 9 days away. My name is Walter Mercer. I was 78 years old when those letters fell from the clock. I had owned Mercer Pharmacy in Cedar Ridge, Ohio, for 43 years. I began working there when prescriptions were written by hand, cash registers had actual keys, and customers trusted the pharmacist more than the instructions folded inside the box. People told me things they did not tell doctors. They told me when they could not afford medicine. When their husbands had stopped sleeping. When their wives were drinking too much. When their children were in trouble. For 43 years, I had listened to other families describe the lies they told one another in the name of protection. I had believed my own family was different. This is a common belief among people who know almost nothing about their own families. My wife June had died 4 years earlier. We had been married 51 years. June was kinder than I was, more patient than I was, and far more skilled at allowing other people to finish speaking. She used to say I listened like a pharmacist. I asked precise questions, identified the complaint, and attempted to provide a solution before the other person had finished suffering. June listened like a wife. There is a difference. We had 2 children. Anna was 52. Daniel was 49. Anna had been born with June's warmth and my certainty. This combination made her delightful at 6, exhausting at 16, and impossible to intimidate after 25. Daniel was quieter. Careful. Dependable. He was the sort of child who returned library books before they were due and apologized when other children broke rules. When Anna filled a room, Daniel learned to stand near the wall. June noticed that. I did not. Parents often remember giving their children equal love. Children remember where the light fell. Anna left in the autumn of 2002. She had been dating a man named Luis Romero. He repaired heating systems and played guitar in a local band on weekends. I considered weekend musicians an unreliable category. This opinion was based on no evidence beyond the fact that Luis owned a leather jacket and did not tuck in his shirts. Anna loved him. I did not believe that was enough. When she told us she was pregnant and intended to marry him, I reacted as though she had announced plans to drive into a river. June asked me to calm down. Daniel disappeared into the kitchen. Anna stood in the living room with both hands pressed against the front of her coat. She said, "I wanted you to be happy for me." I said, "I would be happy if you were making a sensible decision." She asked whether I had ever trusted her. I said trust was earned through judgment. It was the sort of sentence that sounds intelligent until you realize it contains no love. Luis was waiting in his truck. Anna picked up her suitcase. June began crying. I remained angry because anger was easier to carry in front of my family than fear. At the door, Anna turned toward me. "Are you asking me to leave?" That was the moment. I have replayed it more often than any other moment in my life. There were dozens of things I might have said. Sit down. Give me time. I am frightened. I love you. Instead, I said, if you walk out that door, do not expect to walk back in whenever life becomes difficult. Anna looked at June. Then at Daniel. Finally, at me. Then I suppose I should learn to live without this door. She left. June called her the following morning. The number had been disconnected. We sent a letter to the apartment Anna shared with Luis. It came back marked as undeliverable. Daniel told us they had moved to Kentucky. A friend of Anna's had supposedly told him she wanted no contact. I pretended that relieved me. June did not pretend. For years, she left Anna's place set at Thanksgiving. Not at the table. June was sentimental, not theatrical. She kept Anna's place in smaller ways. A stocking remained folded in the hall closet. Her school photographs stayed in the upstairs hallway. June never changed the number on our home telephone. She said Anna might call. I said telephones worked in both directions. June asked where I intended to call. I had no answer. Over time, silence became part of the house. Like the wallpaper in the upstairs hall. Like the crack above the pantry door. Like the grandfather clock in the living room. The clock had belonged to June's father. It was nearly 8 feet tall, made of dark walnut, and had a habit of losing 4 minutes every winter. June refused to have it professionally repaired. She said the clock was not slow. It was thoughtful. It gave us 4 extra minutes before morning. After June died, I stopped winding it. The hands remained fixed at 11:17. That was the time the hospital had called to say she was gone. Daniel began visiting more often after the funeral. At first, I was grateful. He arranged the paperwork. He helped close the pharmacy. He transferred the utilities. He created online accounts I had not requested and passwords I could never remember. When I forgot one, he said, "It's the same one we always use." This was inaccurate. We always use several passwords, all of which he considered obvious and I considered hostile. Daniel owned a residential construction company. For many years, it had done well. Then several developments stalled. Interest rates changed. A business partner left. Daniel said things were difficult but manageable. In our family, manageable usually meant nobody had admitted the truth yet. 6 months before the letters fell from the clock, Daniel began discussing my house. The roof would need replacing. The furnace was old. The stairs were dangerous. I pointed out that the stairs had not moved since 1977. He said that was part of the problem. He took me to see a senior apartment complex called Meadowview. There was no meadow. There was a parking lot and a decorative pond containing one aggressive goose. The manager showed me a 1-bedroom apartment with safety bars in the bathroom. She described them as discreet. They were silver metal rails attached to the wall. There was nothing discreet about them. Daniel said I would have people around me. I said people were not always an improvement. He laughed. I did not. Eventually, I agreed to let him obtain an appraisal of the house. Only an appraisal. Daniel heard the word agreement and stopped listening before the limitation. That was how we came to be moving the grandfather clock when the hidden panel opened. After I read Anna's final letter, I told them moving meant leave. Daniel followed them to the porch. He spoke quietly, handed one of them money, and watched the truck pull away. When he returned, I had placed the letters across the dining table in rows. 86 envelopes. 24 years. Birthdays. Christmases. Anniversaries. Ordinary Tuesdays. The earliest letter was dated 3 weeks after Anna left. I opened it. Dad, I am sorry about the way I left. Luis and I are staying with his sister in Lexington. The baby is fine. I am frightened. I know you are angry, but I hope anger is not the last thing we ever give each other. I sat down. Daniel remained standing. The second letter contained an ultrasound photograph. On the back, Anna had written, "Your granddaughter appears to have your nose." I looked at Daniel. You told us she wanted no contact. She did at first. These began 3 weeks after she left. She was confused. Were you authorized to manage her confusion? Daniel rubbed the back of his neck. It was a gesture he had used since childhood. When Daniel was 12, it meant he had broken something. At 49, it meant the object was probably a family. I can explain. Begin with the clock. He sat across from me. I put the first letters there. How many? I don't know. You have had 24 years to count. Maybe 10. There are 86. Mom found out. The room changed. June had been dead 4 years, but the mention of her still rearranged the air. When? 6 years before she died. I calculated. That meant June had known for 10 years. 10 years of sitting beside me at breakfast. 10 Christmas mornings. 10 anniversaries. 10 years of hearing me say Anna had made her choice. What did your mother do? Daniel looked at the clock. She was furious. With you? Yes. And then? She said she would tell you. But she did not. Daniel looked down. No. Why? I told her Anna was asking about the house. Was she? No. Daniel's answer was quiet. It should have made the lie smaller. It made it worse. You lied to your mother. Yes. You told her Anna wanted money. Yes. And she believed you? Not completely. That answer frightened me more than the others. What does that mean? Daniel did not answer. Instead, he stood and walked toward the clock. He opened the narrow door beneath the pendulum. Then reached behind a wooden frame. When his hand returned, it held a sealed envelope. My name was written on it. Not in Anna's handwriting. In June's. Daniel placed it on the table. I never opened this. That is the first reassuring thing you have said. I broke the seal. Inside were 6 pages and a photograph. The photograph showed June sitting on a park bench. Beside her was a young woman with Anna's eyes. A little girl sat between them. The girl might have been 5. Her hand rested inside June's. On the back, June had written, Anna and Claire. May 2009. I had a granddaughter named Claire. She had existed for 23 years. I had learned her name from the back of a photograph hidden inside a clock. I unfolded June's letter. Walter. I have started this letter 7 times. Every version begins with an excuse, and none of the excuses deserve the first sentence. Daniel hid Anna's letters. I discovered them 10 years ago. I should have told you immediately. I did not. Daniel said Anna wanted money and intended to take advantage of your guilt. I wanted to believe him because the alternative meant admitting our son had stolen years from all of us. But I contacted Anna. We met 4 times. She never asked for money. She asked about you. She asked whether you still drank coffee from the blue pharmacy mug. She asked whether you had forgiven her. I told her you were still hurt. That was easier than telling her you were still proud. I met Claire. She is curious, stubborn and kind. She has your habit of correcting restaurant menus. I told Anna I would bring you the next time. I did not. I kept waiting for a peaceful moment. Peaceful moments are dangerous things, Walter. They make cowards believe there will always be another one. If you are reading this, I either found the courage to tell you, or I ran out of time. If it is the second, please do not spend the rest of your life only blaming Daniel. Blame me too. Then stop blaming long enough to find our daughter. She has been waiting outside the door for years. You are the one who must open it. June. When I finished, Daniel was crying. I was not. Grief does not always arrive through tears. Sometimes it arrives through stillness. The kind of stillness that makes a person afraid to move because the smallest motion may cause everything inside him to collapse. My mother met her. Daniel nodded. She met my granddaughter. Yes. And you knew? Yes. I stood. Daniel stood as well. I pointed toward the door. Leave. Dad, please. You removed my daughter from my life. I made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting an appointment. A mistake is putting diesel fuel into the wrong vehicle. You made a decision 86 times. Daniel's face tightened. You don't know what it was like after she left. I know what it was like. No, you don't. His voice rose for the first time. You were angry, and Mom was heartbroken, and I was the one who stayed. I was 25 years old. I worked at the pharmacy during the day and came here every night because neither of you could speak without arguing about her. When Mom got sick, I drove her to appointments. When the pharmacy struggled, I covered bills. When you stopped sleeping, I answered the phone at 2 in the morning. And every conversation was still about Hannah. I stared at him. Daniel wiped his face with the heel of his hand. She left, and somehow she was still the most important person in the family. So you erased her. I hid one letter. The second one came before I knew how to admit the first. Then another came. Every letter made the confession larger. Eventually, I didn't know how to tell you without losing both of you. You lost us anyway. Daniel lowered his head. I opened the front door. He walked toward it. Before stepping outside, he said, Anna stopped writing for 2 years after Louise died. I gripped the edge of the door. When? 11 years ago. How? An aneurysm. I closed my eyes. I had been wrong about Louise. I had spent years waiting for his failure to prove my judgment correct. Instead, he had built a life with my daughter, raised my granddaughter, and died without ever receiving a civil word from me. Daniel stepped onto the porch. There is something else. I almost laughed. There should be a limit to the number of betrayals allowed in one afternoon. What? The house is already under contract. I looked at him. I did not sign a contract. You signed the power of attorney last year. For medical and banking matters. It includes property transactions. Cancel it. The buyers have already sold their home. That is unfortunate. Dad, the closing is Friday. You have confused a scheduled event with an inevitable one. Daniel's expression hardened. I need that sale. The truth finally reached the surface. Not concern. Not stairs. Not Meadowview. Money. How much do you owe? Daniel said nothing. How much? $460,000. The house was worth nearly $600,000. Daniel had not been helping me move. He had been rescuing himself. Leave. Dad. Before I become the kind of father you have spent 24 years pretending I am. Daniel left. I locked the door behind him. Then I returned to the dining table and opened letters until midnight. I watched my granddaughter grow through photographs. Claire at 6 months, asleep against Louise's chest. Claire at 4, holding a red balloon. Claire at 9, missing 2 front teeth. Claire at 14, standing beside Anna in matching raincoats. Claire at 18, wearing a graduation gown. Anna wrote about everything. Louise opening his own heating business. Claire learning piano. Their first house. A dog named Pepper who had no respect for fences. She wrote when Louise died. Dad, I know you did not trust him. But he loved me well. I hope that matters somewhere inside you. I placed that letter beside June's photograph. At 2 in the morning, I found an envelope with different handwriting. It had been written by Claire when she was 12. Dear Grandpa Walter. Mom says you own a pharmacy. I think that sounds interesting. I want to be a doctor, but I am not sure because I do not like blood. Grandma June says you are funny when you are not trying to be. I hope I can meet you someday. That was the letter that finally made me cry. Not Anna's surgery. Not June's confession. A 12-year-old girl hoping to meet a grandfather who had spent her entire life believing she did not exist. The following morning, I called the number in Anna's final letter. It rang twice. A woman answered. Hello? My prepared speech disappeared. For 24 years, I had imagined what I would say if Anna ever called. Most versions began with an explanation. Several began with an accusation. None began with the truth. Anna? The line became quiet. Then she whispered. Dad? No word had ever sounded so much like a question. Yes. She did not speak. I heard breathing. Then a small sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. I found your letters. All of them? I believe so. Where? In your grandfather's clock. Anna laughed once. A tired laugh. Mom always said that clock kept family secrets. I closed my eyes. Anna, I did not know. I know that now. I should have called. You didn't know where I was. I should have found out. She remained quiet. I continued. I said terrible things when you left. You did. I made love sound conditional. It felt conditional. I was wrong. The words were not enough. They were simply the first honest ones available. Anna said. I came back once. My hand tightened around the telephone. When? Claire was 3. I drove to Cedar Ridge. I parked across the street for an hour. Then I walked to the door. Daniel met me in the driveway. What did he say? He said you knew I was there. He said you told him to make me leave. I sat down. He said if I came onto the property, you would call the police. I remembered that day. Not Anna. The weather. A cold Saturday in March. Daniel had arrived unexpectedly and insisted on trimming the hedge. I had remained inside watching a basketball game. My daughter and granddaughter had been 30 yards away. A hedge and one light had separated us. Anna, where are you? Dayton. Dayton was less than 3 hours away. For 24 years, I had imagined my daughter in some distant place. She had been close enough for lunch. I am coming. Dad, you don't have to. I know. It was the first time in years I had done something for my child that she had not requested. I arrived at Anna's house at 4 that afternoon. It was a small brick house on a quiet street. There were wind chimes on the porch and 3 clay pots containing plants in various stages of survival. I sat in my car for 7 minutes. I know because the dashboard clock was accurate. Unlike June's clock, it offered no extra time. The front door opened. A young woman stepped onto the porch. She had dark hair, June's chin and Anna's eyes. Claire. My granddaughter looked directly at my car. Then she walked toward me. I opened the door and stood. Claire stopped 3 feet away. For years, I had imagined meeting a grandchild. I had expected a child. The woman standing before me was 23. You're Walter. It was not the greeting I had hoped for. It was the greeting I had earned. Yes. She studied my face. You do have my nose. I laughed. She did too. That small shared laugh opened the distance by an inch. Anna was standing in the doorway. She had gray in her hair. That startled me. Children are not supposed to grow old before their parents have apologized to them. She looked like June around the eyes. She also looked like the young woman who had stood in my living room with a suitcase and asked whether I was sending her away. I walked toward her. Anna did not move. I stopped at the bottom step. I am sorry. She pressed her lips together. I know. No. I don't think you do. I climbed the first step. I am sorry I made you believe that one decision could end your place in my life. I am sorry I was more interested in being right about Luis than learning whether he was good to you. I am sorry I waited for you to return after I had made returning feel like humiliation. And I am sorry that when you did come back, my own son stood between us and knew I had made his lie believable. Anna's face changed. The anger remained. But it was no longer alone. You really didn't know? No. She came down one step. I spent years trying to decide whether you were cruel or simply stubborn. Those conditions are not mutually exclusive. Anna laughed through tears. Then she covered her face. I climbed the remaining step. I did not touch her. A person does not regain the right to comfort someone merely because he has finally apologized. Anna lowered her hands. Then she stepped forward and put her arms around me. My daughter was 52 years old. I held her like the 28-year-old I had failed to stop at the door. That evening, we talked until after midnight. Anna told me about Luis. He had opened Romero Heating and Cooling 7 years after they married. He had coached Claire's softball team. He had burned every Thanksgiving turkey until the year before he died. He had kept a photograph of June in his wallet because June was the only member of my family who had ever told him he was a good father. I listened. I did not explain. I did not defend myself. I did not offer solutions. June would have been astonished. Claire was a cardiac nurse. The girl who had once worried she could not become a doctor because she disliked blood had chosen a profession involving both blood and doctors. She told me Anna's surgery was considered serious but routine. That is a terrible combination of words, I said. Claire agreed. Before I left, Anna handed me a box. Inside were 21 returned envelopes. Each had been addressed to me. Across the front, someone had written, "Do not contact this family again." The handwriting belonged to Daniel. He sent those back? Anna nodded. After Mom died, he called me. What did he want? He asked me to sign a document giving up any claim to your house. The betrayal found another room. What did he tell you? That you needed the money for long-term care. He said selling the house was the only way to protect you. Did you sign? No. Anna looked directly at me. I told him I wanted to speak to you first. He said hearing my voice would destroy you. I drove home before sunrise. At 7:30, I called Martha Klein. Martha had handled legal matters for the pharmacy for 30 years. She was 71, wore red glasses and considered retirement an insult invented by people who wanted her office. When I explained what Daniel had done, she remained silent for almost 10 seconds. That was unusual. Martha usually charged silence by the minute. Walter, did you sign a durable power of attorney? Yes. Did I prepare it? No. That was your first mistake. I have already identified several. She told me to bring every document Daniel had given me. By 10 that morning, we had revoked the power of attorney, notified the bank, contacted the title company and instructed the realtor to stop the closing. The realtor was surprised. The title company was irritated. Martha considered irritation an acceptable fee for competence. Daniel called 17 times. I answered the 18th. Where are you? With my attorney. You canceled the closing? Yes. Dad, you don't understand what you've done. I have prevented the unauthorized sale of my own home. My understanding appears adequate. You could ruin me. The sentence stopped me. Not because it was true. Because it revealed how Daniel viewed the house. Not as my home. As his rescue. You ruined yourself. I am refusing to let you use my life as collateral. Can we talk? Yes. Friday at 2. That was the closing time. I know. Friday afternoon, Daniel arrived wearing the same navy suit he had planned to wear at the title office. Martha sat at one end of my dining table. Anna sat at the other. Claire was beside her. When Daniel entered and saw them, he stopped. Anna stood. Hello, Danny. Nobody had called him Danny since June died. Daniel looked at me. You went to her. I opened the door. He looked at Martha. Why is she here? Martha adjusted her red glasses. Because your father has developed the excellent habit of consulting his own attorney. Daniel sat. I placed 3 things in front of him. The first was Anna's final letter. The second was June's confession. The third was the revoked power of attorney. Before we discuss money, you will tell Anna the truth. Daniel looked at his sister. She did not help him. He began quietly. I hid the first letter because I was angry. Anna folded her arms. With me? Yes. For leaving? For always being allowed to leave. Anna's expression changed. Daniel continued. You fought with Dad, said whatever you wanted and walked away. I stayed and cleaned up what was left. Mom cried every night. Dad barely spoke unless he was angry. I worked at the pharmacy and listened to both of them say your name. When your letter came, I thought you were going to walk back in, be forgiven, and become the center of everything again. Anna stared at him. So you decided none of us deserved a choice. Daniel looked down. Yes. You told me Dad hated me. Yes. You told Dad I wanted nothing to do with him. Yes. You sent back my letters. Yes. You sent me away from the driveway. Daniel's voice cracked. Yes. Anna sat down. Claire reached for her hand. I had imagined this confrontation while driving home. In those imagined versions, Daniel looked cruel and Anna looked victorious. Real pain is rarely arranged so neatly. Daniel looked like my son. Frightened. Ashamed. Nearly 50 years old and still speaking from the corner where he had once learned to stand quietly while Anna filled the room. Anna asked. Why the house? Daniel rubbed his hands together. My business is collapsing. I signed personal guarantees. I borrowed against everything. The bank gave me until the end of the month. So you were going to sell Dad's house. I was going to put him somewhere safe. And keep what remained. Daniel did not answer. Martha answered for him. The closing statement allocated $472,000 to an account controlled by Daniel's company. Anna closed her eyes. Daniel looked at me. I was going to pay it back. No. You were going to survive it. There is a difference. He leaned forward. Dad, I stayed. The sentence carried 24 years. I stayed when Anna left. I stayed when Mom got sick. I stayed when you closed the pharmacy. I stayed when you stopped caring whether anyone came through that door. And now I need help. I thought after everything I had done, this family owed me something. The room became silent. I looked at my son. For the first time, I understood part of him. Understanding did not erase what he had done. It only prevented me from turning him into a monster so I could avoid examining the father who had helped shape him. You did stay. Daniel looked up. And I failed to thank you. I depended on you while pretending I depended on no one. I allowed your reliability to become invisible because it was always available. I praised Anna for being brave and praised you mostly for being useful. Daniel's eyes filled. I continued. That was wrong. But it did not give you the right to steal your sister's family, your mother's courage, my house or 24 years of truth. Daniel lowered his head. What happens now? Martha slid a folder across the table. The house will not be sold. The power of attorney has been revoked. The bank has been notified. The title company has canceled the closing. Daniel looked at me. And my company? Your company is your responsibility. I will pay for an independent financial advisor and an attorney to help you negotiate with your creditors. I will not pay your debt. I will not place my house at risk. And you will never again manage my money, property or medical decisions. Daniel nodded slowly. Am I still in your will? Anna looked at him in disbelief. I almost became angry. Then I heard the fear underneath the question. He was not only asking about money. He was asking whether he had finally succeeded in removing himself from the family he had tried so hard to control. Yes. Daniel looked surprised. You will receive an equal share with Anna. But the estate will be managed by an independent trustee. You will control nothing. Not because I want to punish you forever. Because forgiveness without boundaries is only another opportunity for harm. Anna looked at me. Equal? Yes. After what he did? An inheritance is not a scoreboard. And I will not repair one child's erasure by erasing the other. Daniel began to cry. Not quietly. The careful child who had spent his life near the wall finally broke apart at my dining table. Anna watched him. For a long time, she said nothing. Then she asked, "Did you ever read my letters?" Daniel nodded. "Some." "Why?" "At first, to see whether you were asking for money." "And later?" Daniel looked at her. "To know how you were?" Anna's face tightened. "You could have called." "I know." "You could have answered." "I know." "You could have given Dad one letter." "I know." Anna stood. Daniel looked afraid she would leave. She walked around the table and stopped beside him. "I do not forgive you." Daniel nodded. "I don't expect you to. But I have surgery in 5 days. And I am tired of letting silence make decisions for this family. So you will come to the hospital. You will sit in the waiting room. You will not ask me to comfort you. You will not explain yourself. And when I am ready, you will answer every question I ask." Daniel looked up. "Why?" Anna's eyes filled. "Because you are still my brother." Then she added, "And because I refuse to become you." Anna's surgery lasted nearly 5 hours. Claire sat on my left. Daniel sat on my right. No one spoke for the first hour. During the second, Claire asked about the pharmacy. I told her about the time a customer attempted to return a thermometer because it had given him a fever. Claire laughed. Daniel did too. During the third hour, Daniel bought coffee. He remembered I drank it black. During the fourth, he said, "I kept one of her letters in my wallet for 7 years." I looked at him. "Why?" "It was the one where she wrote that Claire had learned to ride a bicycle. I don't know why I kept it." "You wanted a sister?" Daniel's eyes lowered. "Yes. You simply wanted her on terms that required nothing from you." He nodded. "That is how I wanted both of you." Daniel looked at me. "I wanted children who made choices I understood, needed help I knew how to give and forgave me without requiring me to change." It appears we both confused love with control. The surgeon came out shortly after. Anna had done well. Claire cried. Daniel covered his face. I sat quietly and thanked every power I had doubted during the previous 24 years. Recovery was slow. Anna stayed with Claire for several weeks. I visited every day. At first, we talked about safe subjects. Food. Weather. Hospital parking. Hospital parking can sustain a surprising amount of conversation. Later, we talked about Louise, June, Daniel. The years we had lost. There was no single moment when Anna forgave me. Real forgiveness is rarely a door that opens all at once. It is more like a room rebuilt after a fire. One wall at a time. One window. One piece of furniture returned carefully to its place. Daniel sold his company. The sale did not cover everything. He moved into a smaller house and spent 2 years repaying creditors. Martha helped him negotiate. She charged him full price. Forgiveness has boundaries. So does Martha. Daniel began counseling. I did too. I had spent 78 years believing counseling was an expensive way for strangers to ask questions June had already asked for free. I was wrong. The counselor asked better follow-up questions. 6 months after Anna's surgery, the 4 of us met at my house for Thanksgiving. Anna brought sweet potatoes. Claire brought pie. Daniel brought a turkey he had ordered from a restaurant. This was wise. Our family had already experienced enough things being burned beyond repair. Before dinner, Claire stood in front of the grandfather clock. It still showed 11:17. "Are you ever going to start it again?" For 4 years, I had believed stopping the clock preserved the moment June left. It had not preserved anything. It had only made the entire room answer to one terrible minute. I opened the case. Daniel watched from the dining room. Anna stood beside him. I lifted the weights and set the pendulum moving. The clock ticked. Once. Twice. Then steadily. Claire smiled. It's 4 minutes slow. It has always been thoughtful. She did not understand. Anna did. After dinner, Anna handed me an envelope. My name was written on the front. For one frightened second, I remembered the 86 letters. Then Anna said, "This one does not need a stamp." I opened it immediately. Inside was one page. Dad. For 24 years, I wrote letters because I did not know how else to reach you. This is the first one I know you will read. I am still angry about what happened. I am still grieving the years we lost. But I am grateful for the years that remain. You once told me that if I walked through the door, I should not expect to return when life became difficult. Life became difficult many times. I kept trying anyway. Thank you for finally opening it. Love. Anna. I folded the letter carefully. Then I placed it inside my shirt pocket. Not in the clock. Not in a drawer. Not somewhere silence could protect it from the truth. I have thought often about those 86 letters. About Daniel's jealousy. June's fear. Anna's persistence. And my pride. It would be easy to say one person destroyed our family. That would also be convenient. Daniel hid the letters. Nothing can excuse that. June discovered the truth and waited too long to reveal it. Love did not make that choice harmless. Anna stopped calling because she was tired of being rejected. That was understandable. And I allowed one angry sentence to become the final law of my relationship with my daughter. I told myself I was respecting her decision. In truth, I was protecting my pride from the possibility that she might reject me again. Families are rarely destroyed by one argument. They are destroyed by the stories people tell after the argument. He does not care. She made her choice. They are better without me. It is too late now. Repeat those sentences long enough, and they begin to sound like facts. They are not facts. They are doors people lock from the inside. I still live in my house. The furnace has been replaced. The roof has been repaired. The stairs remain exactly where they have always been. Daniel visits on Wednesday evenings. Anna comes every other Sunday. Claire has a key, although she knocks before entering because she has been raised correctly. The grandfather clock loses 4 minutes every winter. I no longer correct it. June was right. Sometimes a family needs 4 extra minutes. 4 minutes to answer the telephone. 4 minutes to tell the truth. 4 minutes to admit fear. 4 minutes to stop someone before they reach the door. But no clock can give back 24 years. That is why, when someone I love reaches for the door now, I no longer wait for them to turn around. I go after them. I say the words while there is still time. Stay. Let us talk. You are still my family.